to the Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for podcasts, hosts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be on the spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's weekly podcast series, The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Meckes. If this is your first time tuning in, please click subscribe, like, share, comment, and also follow wherever you listen to your podcasts. Today, we have with us a retired demonologist who has worked with the Sacred Order of St. Michael, the Archangel, as part of an investigation and assessment team of demonologists, a veteran in the battle of good versus evil for over 41 years, decided in 1982 to develop a systematic process for assessing and profiling people who claim demonic issues. The online demonic profiling studies and demon assessments take the next step forward in demonic investigation studies with a mentorship. Let's welcome to the show Archbishop Ronald Enright. Good afternoon, my friend. How are you?
I'm just fine, thank you.
Very, very welcome. How did you go in this? How did this all start for you? What led you to take the field, get into clergyman?
Well, it all started with a supernatural event. It occurred like many, many years ago. I was about 11 years old, and I was taking a shower in my bathroom. And there was this bright light that just blasted right through the bathroom window, and it illuminated the entire room, so much so I had to close my eyes.
Wow.
To prevent the flash. And then as I closed my eyes, I saw myself many years in the future with a Roman collar and serving in some capacity in the church. And at that time, it was about 30 seconds. I saw this entire, which I view it as a divine calling. I came out of it. I opened my eyes slowly, and I actually saw what looked like or appeared like smoke slowly exiting the bathroom window.
Huh.
And at that point, everything started happening in my life. Things started happening in a supernatural events, and one thing after another and after another. In 1975, I received holy orders, and that is the ordination into the priesthood.
Mm.
And at that point, I decided to see my jurisdictional bishop and express my interest in the ministry of exorcism. And he was very surprised, to say the least, because very few priests ever request that type of assignment. But he assigned me to a mentor, and his mentor was a much older gentleman. He was a bishop and an exorcist, and he's done it for like over 20 years. And so he was a very seasonal veteran in this ministry. I was assigned, and I was his assistant for 4 years. In those 4 years, it was my on-the-job training, if you will. I've actually had 3 mentors in that time, but the one was the exorcist, and I was his mentor, or I was his assistant. Anyway, 4 years went by. In 1979, I was brought up and elevated as bishop-elect within the church.
Yeah.
And then a year later, in 1980, I was appointed the jurisdictional exorcist for that diocese.
Hmm.
And then immediately after that, well, 2 years anyway, I was consecrated as a Catholic bishop within our jurisdiction. And it was at that time, and keep in mind, I've already probably performed well over 800, at least I assisted in about 800 exorcisms. And that was like 1982. Um, I was just now getting my feet wet, pretty much. We Our ministry opened up. We started receiving all kinds of calls, especially when the people in the communities. There were 4 communities we used to service: Glendale, Eagle Rock, Highland Park. All these are in Los Angeles, and we used to service all these communities. And as a result, we kept receiving requests for a priest to come down because there was some kind of strange behavior going on within the family unit. So we would normally, make an inquiry and make an appointment to go down and talk to them. And then we found out that it wasn't just a simple house blessing they were requesting. They were requesting something a little more involving. Uh, and of course, we're talking about demonic issues that people tend to attract in certain situations, which we'll get into that a little later on.
Yeah.
Um, so I was part of the crew, and I was the exorcist for that at that time for the jurisdiction, and I recruited several priests and laity to make up at least a few teams so we can go out and actually do an assessment. And it was after that, about a year or so after that, I created what's referred to now as the process. And this is the entire method that we go through in order to make an assessment on someone who claims symptoms or feelings of demonic oppression or possession. And so we actually take a analytical approach to this. Our organization now is worldwide. We have priests and bishops in 24 countries around the world.
Wow.
And that means we have 24 different jurisdictions. They're out there and they're communicating with us. We have teams. Our teams basically consist of laity. The majority of our people have at least one medical person, maybe a nurse practitioner or even a doctor. And if that be the case, when they do their assessment, they follow what we refer to as a process. And the process consists of a questionnaire that I designed like 1,000 years ago, it seems. The and right now, this process is being used in 24 countries. Um, and let me make kind of clarify this a little bit. I'm not retired. No one really retires from this from this
Sure.
ministry. Okay, I mean, we like to think that we're retired, but the guy upstairs has other plans always.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm 70 years old, and as a result, I'm not as fast and as quick as I used to be.
Yeah. It's a matter of just handing the torch over to somebody and still being there doing the work.
Yeah, right now I put myself in a semi-retired
Yeah.
thing because I'm still communicating with my clergy. I'm also running an online seminary course for clergy and lead exorcists who may want to learn more about profiling demonic behavior and all the characteristics that go with it. So we go into a very deep detail about that. I'm still taking in. I have probably close to 12 different jurisdictions that are just most recently that have joined us in
Mhm.
our ministry of exorcism. And this is a very real scenario. This is not a job; it's an actual calling. And as I said, my calling began when I was 11 years old, when I saw myself actually performing as a clergy in some capacity. Um, since that time, we've had 3 psychiatrists that are also in our organization. One passed away during the 2020, during the COVID,
Mm.
thing, and that was really sad. He was an
Yeah.
MD, and he came down. In fact, I talked to him, and I'm not kidding you, about maybe 2 weeks before he passed, and he was telling me he had a head cold, and and he didn't think anything of it. And of course, 2 weeks later, his sister calls me and says he passed on. He passed away.
Wow.
And I was shocked. And he was a very active member in our organization. Um, we have and we use and work very close with the psychiatry community, if you will, as well as the medical community. Because everything we do, okay, it's under the spotlight, and we have to make sure that what we're dealing with is a real scenario. If a
Hmm.
person is just calling us and it's some form of psychosis, or maybe they just want some attention, and if this be the case, and they request an exorcism, it really doesn't go that quickly. There's an
Yeah.
actual time process involved. The assessment itself, and of course the reports that we receive, the psychological reports that we receive from their doctors. Okay, we have to collect all that information, and then we have to make a decision. And sometimes that takes between 3 to 6 months.
Mm.
So it's 3 to 6 months out, even before you get an approval in regards to the case.
Yeah.
And the reason it takes so long is because the if a person is delusional, it would throw them further back into their psychosis, and if that be the case, it can lead to suicide, and that has happened. So this is a very serious ministry.
Yeah.
It's a healing ministry, but it's also a ministry that we have to take serious, and we have to make sure that we're dealing with a genuine article. If they say they're possessed, I'm very suspicious, because the behavior of a demonic, the demonic is always trying to hide, and it would try to hide deep inside the individual who's possessed. If the person is possessed by a demon, and a demon yells out, "Hey, clergy, I'm over here. I dare you to try to exorcise me," it doesn't work that way. In
Yeah.
fact, to the contrary, it will try to hide deep, deep inside the person. And then physical manifestations will start taking place. You will not only smell death around the person, but you will see physical changes in not only their appearance, but also their immediate surroundings. And when you see these things, it's not a health or a psychological condition when you see things that are really cannot be explained. Okay, and when I talk about the physical things that you see, the physical manifestations, they could go from anywhere. From the behavior of the person could be like displaying multiple languages that they've never been taught.
Yeah.
Super incredible strength. The place that they are laying can absorb into their very presence, where you cannot literally move that person. That person is stuck there. The minor things, of course, are they can't blink their eyelids. Their eyelids are opened, and for some reason, as you know, it's a physical, bodily thing that we do when we lubricate our eyes every 30 seconds. A person
Yeah.
who's possessed, our eyes are wide open, no
Huh.
blinking,
Wow.
which is kind of interesting. Um, I've been doing this for 46 years. It's a long time.
Yeah.
32 years in full time ministry, and the rest, the last 5 years, I've been semi retired. But I say semi because I still have clergy worldwide who tap into to my insights in regards to any input they feel they need to have. I mentor at least a half a dozen bishops across the country and in their ministry of exorcism. And in regards to making a final analysis, I leave that up to the jurisdictional bishop. For example, if we have a jurisdictional bishop, we have many of them all over the world. But let's use the one in Poland.
Mhm.
Okay, the one in Poland. Let's say that they're experiencing someone in one of their parishioners has demonstrated some symptoms, and their family members have requested the clergy to get involved in their particular situation. And if that be the case, the jurisdictional bishop would take upon himself and use the materials that I designed many moons ago in regards to the intake, that is the assessment. Now, the first contact interview is extremely important, and there's always someone who is recording it. And as the lead investigator is questioning the individual, there's normally three sections that we kind of focus in on. And number one, of course, would be their psychological profile. what we see, what we perceive, and how they basically react physically. So the second thing would be their health scenario. Now, there's a lot of health issues and psychological issues that could also mimic demonic behavior.
Mm.
And so it's a very fine line there. So we have to make sure that we go in using a very analytical approach, which is the process. And it helps us to gather the information from the individual who is displaying these symptoms. Also, keep in mind, too, that the third, I said there were three sections. The third section is the physical manifestations that are taking place around the victim. Now, this could also be what we refer to or we could identify as a demonic infestation. And this is where the space has been open to multiple spiritual entities, demonic entities, if you will. And as a result, the house will behave in a certain way where certain things will occur and be totally supernatural in the sense that it's something you would never ever see in a normal healthy home. For
Yeah.
example, the walls. Okay, we've witnessed many of times walls actually seeping what appears to be blood, very dark blood from the walls. And what we've done is, and since we take an analytical, scientific approach to everything, our investigators have taken samples of the substance that have come down, and we've had it lab. We sent it to a lab to have it tested to see what the substance was.
Yeah.
And the substance came out, and not a real surprise, but it is quite a shocking. The substance was not anything you would ever imagine. What it was plasma, human plasma. So human plasma is coming down from the walls. Okay, totally and completely unexpected. Okay, this happens every so often.
Yeah.
I say out of the thousands upon thousands and thousands of assessments that we have done, there's many reports of these types of things. And of course, and I should probably mention it, that demonic possession is extremely rare. Out of